Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Always Online Multiplayer Gaming Podcast, brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things multiplayer related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, aka Magicman, as always, and this is episode 456. We're doing it live, of course, Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern, twitch.tv/MMOBomb. We've got chat standing by saying Troy's still a little bit loud, but we'll see. We'll see when we introduce everybody. And it's a Looter Shooter Spectacular special. That's what we're going to be talking about mostly. We're also going to hit some other things, including PlayStation not wanting to be like Nintendo, which I just think is a very weird quote from top to bottom. We'll explore it all with myself and the hosts, Troy Blackburn. What's up, Noob Fridge?
What's up going on? What's going on? I turned it down a little bit more.
Yeah, so it's looking good on my side, so I think we're okay now. What nice hat.
Thanks. It's covering up the hair that needs a haircut.
needs the haircut. Also on the line, Mr. Anthony Jones. What's up, sir?
Hello. Every time I come back, I always say, it's been a while, and it really has.
It really has. It really has. Yeah. Because your show last month, we had to bump you off of because you had some work stuff going on. Then we had Thanksgiving, so we didn't have any shows in that week. We hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving if you celebrate it. We've got the show this week and next week and the week after. So we've got 3 shows left, counting today's, for 2022. And then there will be no shows Friday the 23rd or Friday the 30th, as they are Christmas and New Year's weekends. As always, we kind of sign off for the year before those. And then we come back in January with our prediction shows. So we hope you'll stick around, have some fun. If you're watching on YouTube, MMOBomb.com, listening on Spotify, iTunes, any of the podcast places, do us a favor. Click like, click subscribe, throw a comment down there. We're definitely going to need your comments for the weekly bombs and question of the week. So on that note, let's get started. Oh, we got some we'll talk about it in a minute because one of them's first-person shooter related. So let's hit the news bump and go. It is a Looter Shooter Spectacular to kick off the show. I'm all for it. Troy, you and I, big fans of Looter Shooters in general. We have a few favorites, obviously, but we're big fans of the genre. Anthony, where do you fit? I know you've dabbled in, I think, Division 2 we've talked about before, things like that, but where are you on the genre as a whole? Are you cool with that type of repetitive loop gameplay, just going after the purples and the mythics and everything, or do you look for something a little more than just a nice gameplay loop?
I think the loot aspect, I think of something. I used to play Destiny very actively until I stopped playing Destiny. But those are the types of looter shooters I like, where there's some type of customization of the character, there's abilities and stuff like that. I don't like the shooters that are just just shoot, get the gear, and that's about it. I like a little bit more kind of layered on that, and some more kind of mechanics kind of woven into all of the aspects of the game. So that's kind of where I sit on that. I like them. I don't play them as often, but they're always good for a good little jump in to see how it plays out, what's the new kind of twist on the whole genre. But most of the time, it's just a really good loop that really kind of brings me in.
Yeah, and obviously Destiny 2 kind of the pinnacle of the looter shooter right now, right? As far as audience size and reach and scope and things like that, with a mix of PvP and a mix of PvE. But Troy, we've kind of seen an evolution over the last couple of years in the looter shooter genre, right? When Destiny 1 broke out and Destiny 2 came out, we also had the Division and the Division 2 kind of going for that whole open world, here's missions in the place, and maybe dungeon-esque type stuff. Destiny's got its own, Division's got its own. But lately we've also kind of seen them break into almost that, hey, this is a looter shooter inside a battle royale, right? Where they kind of throw you into a battle royale match. You're gathering stuff. You try to extract or leave or survive or be the last person standing, whatever the case may be, to get back. and then craft your hub, your home, your gear, and stuff like that. So it's a very instance-based things rather than a world-based thing, kind of like a Destiny or Division 2. Do you favor one or the other when you're booting up a looter shooter? Are you into games like, Vigor, Escape from Tarkov, stuff like that?
I usually prefer more of the sort of the world to go out to the Destinies and the Divisions, especially. The Division is one of the games that I just wish I had more time to dedicate to it, because I would probably play the crap
So does
out of it.
Ubisoft.
Yeah. I still remember the original announcement of the Division, and I was like, man, this looks really cool. But it's just one of the games that always slips through the cracks. It's one of those handful that, man, if I just had a little more time, I would probably fit this into my gaming regimen. But it just never quite makes it in there.
Mhm.
Yeah, and both the Division and the Division 2, which I do enjoy, and we have side projects coming up in that IP, of course. They're both games that I'm like, yeah, wait till like 8 months after it comes out, then it'll be good. And that's what's happened with like literally both of them, as they kind of find their stride. And arguably Destiny and Destiny 2 have done that too, right? Like Destiny, when it first launched, like there was no lore in the damn thing, right? It was, you all had to go to the websites.
It's all mysterious. The
Yeah,
Traveler.
yeah. You had to go to the
What is the
website and
Traveler?
read the
I don't
lore and stuff. And they kind of learned those lessons and went to Destiny 2. And so we've got a number of new ones, and I think, guys, I know I don't have these in the order that I wanted, but that's on me. Let's start with Warhammer, because it is Warhammer Darktide is one we have talked about on this show leading up to its launch. Its pre-order beta we streamed. It is now available. Came out on November 30th. You already know that Troy and I are positive on the game going into it, but now I haven't played since launch. I know Troy has, but I have played quite a bit of the pre-order beta, so we're forming our solid opinions. Troy's going to have his first look up next week for this guy. What are you thinking now that you're in there, Troy? Obviously, we enjoyed it jumping in the first time, seeing the first couple of different mission variants, because this is a hub-based one, and you jump down into instances, not Battle Royale instances, they're co-op PvE instances, and then you come on back and you craft gear, you do your advancement, your character advancement in the hub. Now that you've seen almost what the entire game has to offer, besides actually getting to true endgame and things like that, are you still high on Darktide?
I think I still am. I'm still having quite a bit of fun in it. I'm happy not to be crashing every other time
That's true.
I try to load into a mission, because I reached a point in the beta where I just quit playing because it just got that bad. I crashed 2 or 3 times in a row one night, and that was the last time I loaded it up until launch day. Then I sat in a queue for 33,000 people and waited to play a little bit the other day on launch day. Still been having a lot of fun in it. Still been enjoying it. I think my favorite thing about it being a Warhammer game, a Warhammer 40K game, is there's so much lore out there to dive into, and there's a little bit of story in the game, but there's such a wide universe within within that IP to go explore and learn about, and even there's videos now people are putting out about specifically your type of character that you are, and how you would fit in the actual lore of the 40K universe, and I'm really enjoying that at night when I'm laying in bed, taking in those videos and the lore and stuff, and that really, to me, amplifies my enjoyment of the game itself, because now I know, kind of have a better idea of where my guy came from and what it would have been like living his life up until that point, which has been a lot more fun for me than even it would have been without it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, right? I mean, Warhammer, huge IP. I dabble in it. I'm by no means a Warhammer expert, but this Darktide is like such a small sliver of that overall universe, right? Just like they did with Vermintide and then some of the other Warhammer properties. You're looking at like a few specific civilizations, a few specific conflicts in this huge universe that really, to your point, they could just go anywhere. And yeah, they show a lot of shooting in the trailer. Honestly, the game is a lot more melee than it is shooting. That's not to say that there isn't shooting and quite a bit of it, but usually you're trying to save your ammo, particularly on some missions for the boss. So you just you just run around smacking things with an axe, or in my case, a shovel right now, Anthony.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically a mixture of both sides, but it's definitely more melee based. And kind of like piggybacking off of what Troy said about the world building and all that stuff. Like, I am really outside the sphere of Warhammer 40K. Like, I've known about it for so long, and it's very daunting. But just going into it and like how you can basically create your character, it can have like this background, and there's all these aspects to the particular class you make. And it's all just like it's very like well put together, I would say. I think that's something that was very impressive. And I have not played it since the pre-beta launch, so I don't know how it is now. But judging from the updates they made and kind of like the initiatives they have going forward with like performance and whatnot, I think it's making some very great steps already.
Cutscenes are awesome so far. There is kind of a driving main narrative. I wouldn't say it's like exactly like here is the story, right? There's going to be gaps in when you see certain cutscenes and when you see bits of major story unfold. There's a lot of sub-story going on. The missions themselves always have like very detailed objectives, and yeah, it boils down to, hey, go kill the boss in this one, or hey, go capture the points in this one, or hey, go extract materials from this one. So very familiar feeling mission archetypes, but if you take the time to read some of the additional information pre-mission, there is lore baking into those that kind of coincide with what the objectives are in the main story itself. The music is phenomenal. It is absolute. It might be. I love the visuals and the aesthetic, Troy, of the game, but the music might be my favorite, and overall sound design might be my favorite thing about Darktide right now.
Yeah, I think the sound design overall, they've done a phenomenal job with it. Everything sounds great. It sounds, especially if you're wearing like headphones, everything is right there where it should be, where it needs to be. Everything that needs to sound tinny sounds tinny. Everything that sounds metallic sounds metallic. The footsteps sound without being overwhelming. I think the sound design overall, they did a fantastic job with it.
One thing I really do like, and I wish more looter shooters did this, throughout missions, you know, if you just get lumped in with 3 random people, right, or even bots, but most of the time it's people. There's a lot of people playing right now. It's not hard to find a match in the random queue. Yeah. They all talk to each other throughout the entire mission. They all talk to each other, and I'm not talking about like I ping something on the map so that Troy knows where it is, and my character says a stock 1 of 7 lines. That type of stuff happens, yes. But there's actually like narrative beats in the individual missions that all 4 of your characters, yours and the 3 teammates in there, they're speaking to each other as you're running through about the mission and things like that. I thought, you know, it doesn't add anything to it. It would be fine if it wasn't there, but it is a nice little audio touch and a nice immersion touch on
yeah, I was gonna say it's a nice, if you listen to what they're actually saying, it's a nice immersion sort of into what you're getting into there in the moment. It's actually really good for immersion, I think.
Yeah, sometimes don't they like say, like I played oh man, I'm forgetting which one it is. It's like the melee one, very frenzy like. Oof, I forget what it's called, but I remember like one of those characters was like having a little chat with the other one about their their religion, and it's just like those little things right there. It just kind of just shows more of the kind of the character, and you know how Mike was saying how it just really just fleshes out that whole experience, and you know it's not necessary, but it's just it you know puts you into it more. So
our streamed character in the pre-order beta, by the way. For those of you that helped create and name it when we streamed it, we've been getting a lot of compliments when I play from groups. I love your name, love your name, love your name, because we named her Seditious Karen, and she has a, as close as we could get to a bob haircut and everything like that. So yeah, we did good, chat. People are liking that when we're in groups. It's just like, I love the name. Could you come res me now? Like, yeah, no problem. We'll come res you.
Good job, chat.
Yeah, great job, chat. Now, from one we've actually had a lot of experience, or at least somewhat been experienced in playing, to more that are coming out. And some of these we've talked about on the show before. Not this first one, but the next one we're going to talk about. It's getting a new update, and so we're going to revisit it now that it's getting its first early access update. But it's kind of a wonderful time to be a looter shooter fan. That's not saying all these are going to be great. In fact, there are some of them that I'm just like, I don't think that one's going to be for me. But we have an announcement on Synced. This is from Next Studios. It's a match-based rogue looter shooter. So not kind of, more along the lines of a Darktide, right, where you're going into a specific match. It will have PvE and PvP when it comes out. It's going into open beta on December 10th. It's kind of like an apocalyptic thing, a techno-apocalyptic future is the way the team describes this one. Matches are going to be both PvE and PvP. You'll have the ability to tame and weaponize nanos. That's kind of like the robotic, futuristic creatures that are in the game. Those will give you extra combat options, and they can actually be trained into companion classes. There are, in the PvP, it's groups of 3 as far as the team sizes. And yes, you'll need to work together to make good use of your nanos, your companions. Open beta period on December 10th. Test period runs for 5 weeks, ending on January 15th. And they're going to drop new content on a weekly basis, host streaming events, and keep an eye on their social. It's called Synced, Synced. Troy, in taking a look at everything we know about this one so far, which admittedly is not a lot, what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I've been looking at the gameplay beta reveal trailer. I'm looking at it now. It doesn't seem like it's going to be very appealing to me. You've got the mass base, you've got some PvP mixed in there. I think I'd rather just play Darktide, to be honest with you.
Anthony, what are you thinking?
Okay. Well, I'm actually on the opposite end. I I actually am interested in it. I am a visual effects person, and I just like the spectacle of it. I'm very interested to see how the matches kind of play out and how they manage to kind of implement this kind of rogue looter shooter kind of aspect to it. So still skeptical, but hopefully it comes through. I signed up for that little beta, so maybe I'll have some thoughts about it very shortly. So
yeah, chat wondering why we haven't mentioned Borderlands, obviously, in the discussion. Only because they haven't had a new one. I mean, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands was a bit different. Same, shell of Borderlands. Borderlands, fantastic looter shooter. I don't know about you guys though, but Borderlands is one I tend to want to play alone. I don't know if that's weird. Like its co-op is great. I've had fun playing with friends, but I kind of like go through the Borderlands games and Tiny Tina Wonderlands. I kind of go through those solo. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I played that by myself.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe it's because it doesn't force me, right? Like Darktide forces you. It's going to drop you in, and if it found people, it found people. If not, it's going to put bots in, and it will replace those bots in the match. Not Warframe, which, hey, looter shooter, fantastic one. By the way, they added cross-platform today. It's December 2nd, 2022. Congratulations on adding cross-platform play to Warframe. No voiceover IP yet, and no cross-platform progression. Those are coming, but they're not in this update. So, but another great looter shooter. Like I think the ones that like force me to play multiplayer. Okay, Division. I tend to do Division solo too, except for like the dungeons, right? Because those damn things start to become bullet sponges inside the dungeons. Inside the dungeons, you just. Ugh. I don't know. I like the idea of the nanos, Anthony. I'm kind of interested with you on like these tameable nanos that you can grow into companion classes and things like that. That kind of interests me. I don't know match-based if it's going to hold me. I do tend to like the open world ones, but here we are saying, so far we like Darktide, which is match-based.
Hmm. Yeah, it really has to really sell that loop, really hard, I would say. And honestly, I feel like the nanos are going to help a lot too, depending on how much extra they add into it. I mean, it seems like they do a lot of different things from what I've seen, but playing is going to be way different. I hope it's not very limited. I hope it's not like one of those things where you just have like one or two abilities. I want more of like a range of abilities, and then also have like my weapons and whatnot. So I mean, yeah, I'm very interested though.
So we've got that. Then we also have Play Marauders. That's their Twitter. The game is Marauders. Their Twitter is Play Marauders. As if you couldn't probably have guessed that. Anyway, everything's play whatever these days. Marauders, now, that's been in early access for a little while. They kind of bill themselves, Troy, right, if I remember this right, as a little more hardcore, right? This is the PvPvE, space battles, get on ships, go through, take over the ships, get loot from everything you kill, that type of game. They're introducing their first big update since early access started in, I think it was October. This is the Red Baron. So I wrote the article for this, and I'm going to tell you, I was like, damn it, I don't play Marauders, but I like this. I really like this.
I was gonna say if there was one that I really want to check out, this is kind of put it back on my radar of the one that I would be interested in jumping in and trying out with the little bit of space combat and stuff that's in that, especially when you see it in the trailer and stuff. The space stuff looks really good. Sort of the invading thing, I'm not sure about, but it'd be enough that it would interest me to jump in and check it out. I don't know a lot about it, but it's definitely on my radar here.
Yeah, so the Red Baron update is and you may know that name from popular dogfighting in World Wars. The Red Baron, feared in the skies, well, now feared in space. The Red Baron is flying around in a super powerful strike frigate, and if you run across the Red Baron, flee or try to take it over. First, you're going to have to get on the ship. Good luck. You're talking about an ace pilot, so you got to get on the ship. Then it's tight quarters, dimly lit. Go try to find and take out the Red Baron, take over the space frigate, loot the corpse. Like, you get all of this stuff. How will you board an ace pilot ship? I don't exactly know. Seems like you better be an ace pilot yourself to pull this off. They actually streamed some of this, because it's not out yet. They actually streamed some of this yesterday, and it looked pretty damn cool. It was like, oh, man, I don't have time for another looter shooter, but this looks cool. Chat calling it the Tarkov of space. The
Tarkov space. Yeah, that's what I've heard too. It's definitely something on my radar too. I've been meaning to try it out actually because it sounds so dope. I like the whole sci-fi space battling, aesthetic and all that, and how high stakes it is. And lately I've been kind of on this PvPvE binge. A lot of games have been cropping up like that too. I like the genre of games. They actually, I think the biggest thing about them is that they're so unexpected. I could go to a match and something can go wrong right away, or I might get all the way up to the end and then, something still goes wrong. And I think that kind of brings you back to do better next time. So this is kind of one of those games I've seen, clips and people talk about it and play it. And it looks like something that's going to be around for a long time.
Yeah, and this is literally, gang, just like kind of scratching the iceberg, right, of what's coming up. We haven't talked about Road to Vostok at all in this chat. We haven't talked about, we've mentioned The Division, but we haven't talked about Resurgence. Arc Raiders, I don't know if anybody remembers that. We've been covering that on the site for a while. That kind of went through some rocky stuff. We've got the first Descendant, which honestly, it's Nexon, and we haven't generally been all that pumped for, but who knows, maybe it will surprise. You've also got the Division Heartland, although that's going to be a little more Escape from Tarkov, Battle Royale type stuff. There's a lot on the looter shooter front. But Troy, for you, what makes a good looter shooter, right? Because at the end of the day, you're talking about a game, much like an MMORPG at endgame, right? That needs to convince you to do the same things hundreds of times and stay engaged with the game itself. What makes a good one for you? Darktide's gameplay is compelling. But at the end of the day, when you are, at quote unquote endgame and you have cool gear, what makes you jump into that assassination mission for the 500th time and still be having fun? What makes a good looter shooter for you?
It's got to be meaningful progression. I've got to be able to really be able to sort of tweak my guy as I level up, as I go on, with weapons, with skills, with abilities, to really play the way that I want to play, the way that I'm having fun playing. I really need that type of progression in a game like that to really keep me going time after time after time. I want to be able to play the way that I want to play, and whether that be a gun that I like and an upgrade for it, or an ability or a skill or just a play style that I can sort of spec into or get into or skill into or drop a weapon on it to get into. Whatever it is, I need that in a game to really keep me going, because at the end of the day, if I'm not having fun with the way that my weapon works or the way that my dude works, I'm not going to keep coming back to repetitive content over and over.
So it's not just like the stat increases. I'm going to keep playing to make my character stronger. Okay, great.
Yeah, I want to be able
if
to.
I'm constantly playing with an assault rifle and
Yeah.
it's just, okay, this is X points and this is Y points and this is Z points, that's not doing it for you. But customization in weapon abilities, something Destiny, I think, arguably, does very well, right?
Yeah.
They have a lot of ridiculous weapons, some of which are more effective than others, some of which you just want to take out for a test ride because they look ridiculous and they function in a ridiculous way. And then the stat and ability builds. I will admit, Darktide seems to be a little lacking on that front right now, as far as what... there comes a point in Darktide's progression where it's like you have all of your abilities.
Yeah.
Okay, here you go. We'll see how they tweak that, because there are weapons that can modify things. So we'll see how much that matters. What about a looter shooter draws you in, Anthony? What's going to keep you locked in, booting up tomorrow, playing for 4 hours, booting up the next day, playing for 4 hours, even though your character's already maxed out?
I think it's definitely going to be the systems in place for me, because a lot of looter shooters, I mean, you got that progression loop, but also how you go about, progressing is also very important to me. That can be, something like, hey, you need to come in and you need to go and do this run and then come back and, implement some resource in some way. And, it's kind of exciting because you can, have those resources behind challenging content, or you can have it behind, things that, you enjoy doing. And I think the thing I like the most is when these looter shooters, they let you kind of go off and, get things in different ways the way you want to. I think about like Destiny, and how Destiny has like so many different modes and matches, and there's different ways you can, attain different weapons and whatnot. So kind of something like that, you get to have your choice, and the systems in place is not really restricting or really a chore to do. So that's kind of what brings me back, besides just the progression loop.
Yeah, I mean, the progression loop is what gets me, right? It's what gets us all at first. Like, as soon as you boot up that game, when I got my first green in Darktide, I was like, yeah, boy, here we go. I got a green. Like, I'm not wearing gray anymore. Yeah, well, except these 4 pieces, but I'm in greens now.
Right.
Like, obviously, there's that progression. MMORPGs do that too, with the leveling experience, the dopamine hits as you ding and stuff like that. And then most of the looter shooters fall by the wayside, because people reached that gear cap, power cap, whatever the hell you want to call it, and now have to wait for the next update to keep advancing the character. So I, kind of like you, Troy, I look for that horizontal progression when I've reached the end there. So I'm still getting that dopamine hit, right? Like, I've got a list of Destiny 2 does it very well. Like, whether or not you like Destiny, and I happen to like Destiny, Destiny 2's kind of always got that list of, okay, shit, I'm done with the main story for the latest update or the latest expansion or whenever you happen to be jumping in. But I got this list of exotics that I still keep. Damn it, I got to get these done because I really want to mess with that gun, like Takao says, that shoots a face hugger out of it. Like, it's just like, oh, I want to go get that. It's totally useless in PvP. It's totally useless in PvE, but it shoots face huggers. Like, like that's that kind of type of horizontal progression where there's maybe I'm not getting more powerful, but I'm getting something interesting to mess with. And Destiny 2 does that very well. Division 2 does it pretty well as well because they added the whole like housing almost aspect of things, right? Where you're upgrading your base of operations and things like that. So those types of horizontal progressions are key for me. And that's why I'm actually a little worried about Darktide. It's going to take a while to get there, right? I got a ton of other things on the plate right now. We all do. The holidays are coming up. So it's going to be fine in the short term. I have no doubt. I'm enjoying it. But looking at some of the systems, it does kind of go, okay, well, if I get this done, am I just going to be sitting around waiting for the next DLC, waiting for the next patch? Am I going to be interested in playing at a certain point? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But it's got me so far. I love looter shooters, man. I love good looter shooters, I should say.
Yeah, that's like the downside of looter shooters. Like they're so like the progression is like bar none, like really good if it's, if the developers made it pretty good. But that Apex, it's like the thing that you want to stall from because you never know if there's gonna be new content or not because some developers they drop the project or they don't implement content fast enough. So yeah.
In most MMOs, Takal, it is gold. It is gold or yellow. That's the top color. Purple is usually epic. Blue rare, purple epic,
Exotic.
and then yellow or gold is like exotic, legendary. Sometimes they use orange in some games for like mythic. But yeah, purple is usually epic, which isn't the top in most games. Well, I guess in Final Fantasy it is, yeah. Right? Yeah, because the relics and stuff are purple. So yeah, if you're talking about Final Fantasy 14, yeah, you're right. Purple's the top. But in most other games, it's gold or yellow or sometimes orange. So that's new games, new shooters, new looter shooters. Let's talk about an announcement this past week that I didn't see coming at all, like literally at all, and I don't know if either of you did. We're getting a new Starship Troopers game. I don't know the last time I said that.
Starship Troopers.
Yeah. Starship Troopers Extermination is on the way. And that's in the Starship Troopers universe. We've got a teaser trailer that I'll queue up here for you so that you can see it. Boop. There we go. Get you a little Starship Troopers Extermination. Now, this is co-op. Matches with 12 players. 3 teams of 4. You'll have 3 different classes: assault, support, defense. So the Trinity, right? DPS, healer, and tanks. Build systems so that you can build like walls and towers and ammo stations and stuff in the matches. There's going to be a bunch of 5 different bugs when early access launches, from drones to elite bugs. Going to be in early access sometime next year. You can check out the Steam page. We have the article on MMOBomb.com that's got all the trailers, an official trailer, a gameplay teaser, links to Steam. You can find it all on MMOBomb.com. And it's being developed by Off-World Industries. I got to admit, I didn't see the announcement coming. I love the Starship Troopers IP. I'm amazed we don't have more in it. But I also wasn't like, man, I could really use this good Starship Troopers game. I was kind of like, when I saw the announcement, Troy, I was like, oh shit, yeah, I could use a good Starship Troopers game.
Talk about a game that lends itself to actually being a shooter. Now, it's also going to be really easy to miss the mark on the allegory and stuff like that that's in the movies. But if a game ever lends itself to being a a good co-op shooter, Starship Troopers is the one. Got the bugs coming at you and stuff. It looks like it's got a little bit of tower defense sort of elements in it too. It looks like they're dropping some things here and there to
Yeah, that's
sort
the
of protect
build
points.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it could be a lot of fun. And it could also completely miss the mark, but still be a fun shooter.
Yeah. It definitely reminds me of this is totally different, but Exoprimals, how the dinosaurs
Oh, yeah.
and
That's
these
another
are like
one.
swarms. It's like it's gotta be fun to play. I'm very interested in seeing how they kind of mix and match the classes and how far the building goes. Because I mean, if it is kind of very tower defensey, I'm very interested in that. I want to see what types of mechanics go into that, and if there's like well, I don't know. I haven't looked too far into if there's like some type of like base building into that too, or if it's just exclusively just making things to keep the mobs at bay. So yeah.
I'm trying to like look up Starship Troopers video games. So we got Starship Troopers in 2005, Starship Troopers Terran Command, Terran Ascendancy, Invasion Mobile Infantry, Extermination, which we're talking about now, and Battle Space. Yeah, we could definitely use a good Starship Troopers game. We could definitely use one. Definitely use one.
It's funny how sometimes an IP will sneak up on you and you'll be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, though. Like, when you look at, honestly, when I got the presser, I was like, whoa. Oh, God, yeah, we haven't had okay. Off-World Industries. I don't know. Do you know them?
No.
Exactly.
Can't say that I do.
Yeah, exactly. So let's take a look at some games Off-World Industries has done. They are based in Vancouver, Canada. And on our games page, we've got Squad, an online multiplayer first-person shooter that aims to capture combat realism through communication and team play.
I've seen that one.
Postscriptum, a World War II simulation game focusing on historical accuracy, large-scale battles, a difficult learning curve, and an intense need for cohesion, communication, and teamwork. Can't imagine why that one's not more popular on the internet. Beyond the Wire, a tense multiplayer first-person shooter set in a brutal, bloody trenches of World War I. Okay, and I know you can't see this, but there's a screenshot for all three of these, and honestly, I would forgive you if they weren't labeled if you thought they were all the same game. You're looking at it now too.
Yeah, they all look the same.
Yeah, they do. Like, is Postscriptum? Let's see if Postscriptum is on Steam.
I know Squad is
Postscriptum Steam charts. 245 players right now. Squad. You said you're familiar with Squad? I'm not.
Yeah.
Squad on Steam charts. Holy shit! Why am I not familiar with this? They do. They have over 8,000 playing right now.
Jeez.
24-hour peak is over 10K, and looks like looking at the last came out in 2015. Good lord. Yeah, looks like they're on an uptick too. Like looking at their 2021 stats into 2022 here, they're growing. Okay. All right.
I think Squad.
I was wrong. Bode, yeah, I agree. Could probably bode well now. We'll see. Okay, last thing before we head over to the weekly bombs. Let's talk Activision updates. I know. We're not going to talk about the fact that they got bounced out of court again for trying to union bust on the whole votes that still need to take place. They were trying to have the votes quarantined and stuff. That didn't work. I want to talk about just the absolute drama throughout the industry between all the big players right now. Because it's not just Sony and Microsoft. It's Activision and Sony and Microsoft and Google and Epic Games. They are all fighting right now. They're all fighting. So let's talk first about Epic, who in their court filings in the Apple Store stuff, that you might be forgiven to know that they are also going after Google for certain things along the same lines, walled garden type mentality in other parts of the world. You might be forgiven because it's always Epic and Apple, but Epic and Google are also a thing. But in filings that were recently redacted a little bit, or recently revealed from being redacted, we found out that Epic is making a very weird allegation, saying that Google has been offering other companies money to not make digital distribution platforms. Now, Epic says that Google has a project called Project Hug that is basically their way of working out relationships with other developers to keep competition in the mobile app delivery space at a minimum. Specifically alleging that Google paid Activision $360 million to not develop a competing mobile store when the Call of Duty Titan was planning on doing so. Now, they also say this has happened with smaller companies where other deals were made, varying deals, like they accuse Riot Games of getting off or being paid off to not make a separate League of Legends app. Now, we reached out to Riot for comment, and they never replied. Activision, for their part, says this is absolute nonsense. They did not receive $600 or $360 million to not develop an app store. And Google says Project Hug it does exist. It is a way for us to encourage relationships with developers. And we actually use that project to foster development and competition through apps on the Google Play Store. Now, Activision's specific quote says, Epic's allegations are nonsense. We can confirm that Google never asked us, pressured us, or made us agree not to compete with Google Play. And we've already submitted documents and testimony that prove this. And again, Google's saying, yeah, that project exists, but it's not what Epic is claiming it is. So ridiculous, Troy.
Tim Sweeney is running the risk of becoming the boy who cried wolf. And eventually he's going to hit one that is a legitimate competitive concern. And everybody's just going to quit listening because he just screams all this nonsense all the time.
I mean, the claim is very it is very strange. I mean, to make a specific claim that is 360 million, right on the dot. No other number is that number. Like how did you get to that number? Who was the source? Like, I'm very interested in that. But also, I mean, I don't know. I never really trust these companies and what they say, honestly, until, proof is out there. But, from what Activision said they submitted documents and testimony to prove it. So is Project Hug what it is? And there's maybe a secondary project that's for that, and maybe they got it wrong.
By the way, let's not forget that we are dealing with a guy that compared the Epic fight against Apple to the civil rights movement. I mean, let's not forget exactly the type of person we're dealing with here making these accusations. You lose a little credibility when you say stupid shit like that, when you say dumb things. Speaking of saying dumb things, remember how, Troy, Sony's big thing for a while was we don't want the Microsoft deal to go through because Battlefield is a piece of shit and it won't be able to compete with Call of Duty. Well, that's still going on. But we now have a third company that has approved the Microsoft acquisition of Activision. So now we have Saudi Arabia, Brazil, and Serbia. Shout out to any of our fans in Serbia and Romania. Some of you commented on the piece saying, I can't believe my country's name was in a piece on MMOBomb. We love you. We have always loved you. We actually, I remember Serbia and Romania specifically, like coming up on a lot of casts because on YouTube, people used to chime in their weekly bomb and stuff. And feel free to do this, greetings from, and would put the country there and we'd give a shout out to the country. Romania and Serbia showed up a lot. We're big deals there. we're ultra famous.
We're kind of
Serbia loves us. But now Sony is thinking, okay, we got to make some other arguments The UK is doing some enhanced investigation. We now know, at least from rumors reported to Reuters, from people close to it, that the FTC here in the United States is probably going to file a lawsuit challenging the Microsoft acquisition of Activision. So it looks like it's going to have some hurdles here. We all predicted that it was probably going to have some hurdles, but would ultimately make it through them. We'll see if that plays out. So I'm not surprised that the rumor is the FTC is probably going to file a lawsuit against it. But now Sony, I've never seen Anthony use as many quotation marks in a piece as he had to use in this piece, because Sony's allegations needed to be taken exactly word for word. Sony claims Microsoft's Activision Blizzard deal could make PlayStation, quote unquote, like Nintendo, hurt indie devs, or, quote, lead to price raises or price hikes across the board. They don't want to be like Nintendo, Anthony. And by that, they were saying they don't want to be known as the kiddie system with no mature shooter titles.
I thought that was such a slap in the face to Nintendo. It's basically saying we don't want to be like them. And I mean, also they're saying, they just don't want, they don't want to not have a non-existent, 18 rated shooter library. And, with this deal going through, they're going to have stuff like Overwatch. They're going to have Halo, Gears of War, Doom, Overwatch. Those are all big hitters. And it's with Sony, it seems like they feel they will have to make something as competitive. But I mean, who knows if that's actually going to, land or not. But I mean, there's a whole lot of things that they said in their response.
Please
just
don't make us like Nintendo.
Yes.
They also said, faced with weaker competition, Troy, Microsoft would be able to increase console and game prices for Xbox users, including those that switched from the PlayStation, increase the price of Game Pass, and reduce innovation and quality. Microsoft's foreclosure strategy would lock in many consumers to Xbox. Now, we do know that Phil Spencer had already said, hey, we are going to have to increase prices on consoles, games, or Game Pass. We're not sure exactly which. We're not going to be doing anything until after the holidays anyway. So Sony kind of latching on to that idea, even though it fails to mention here that Sony was the one that first increased the price of their games to $70, and the console after launch went up in price. So let's not mention that. They also said that Game Pass would become a critical distribution channel for independent developers, and in that weakened negotiating position, independent developers would likely receive worse terms for their content from Microsoft, or even be required to promise exclusivity in return for distribution, thereby diminishing independent developers' ability and incentive to invest in high-quality new games. I mean, Sony just keeps throwing everything against the wall here. It's like, Microsoft's going to murder your babies. They're going to murder everybody's babies, Troy. Microsoft Xbox is coming after your babies.
And they keep ignoring the irony of some of their allegations as well. I love all the doom and gloom about, oh, they're going to be exclusive and they're going to cut us out and then prices are going to go up. Never mind, like you said, PlayStation was the first one to make prices go up. PlayStation is the king of freaking exclusives when it comes to games. They've got their God of Wars and their Horizons and stuff like that out there.
Yeah. Something Microsoft admitted just last week, that they have better exclusives than us.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, look, Call of Duty moves consoles. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it doesn't, because it does. I know plenty of console players who that is the reason they own consoles, is to play Call of Duties, Battlefield, stuff like that. Right now it is Call of Duty, of course. But there are other games out there. And if such a big developer, such a big ownership company as Sony, you first of all, you're not even getting exclusives right off the bat. You've got contracts that say you're still getting these games for at least a certain period of time. Second of all, there's money to be made for Xbox later on down the road if they don't keep them exclusive. There's money to be made also by keeping them on PlayStations and things like that, at least until the next console generation comes around. And then you can try to move just Xboxes. I could see that happening. but at the end of the day, it's all doom and gloom from PlayStation's side, and they completely ignore all the hypocritical stuff that they also do themselves when making these accusations against other companies.
It is said now, by the way, that the original or the rumored 10-year offer that Xbox had apparently given Sony after they had their 3-year spat, public fight, which Sony didn't comment on. It is now rumored that that is back on the table now. Microsoft trying to use that kind of 10-year offer and maybe a few other concessions to kind of help ease concerns in the UK's investigation, which they have to file a report by January and make a decision by April, and then hopefully to help in the United States as well. So it's going to be interesting to watch it play out. I think at the end of the day, this thing does still get approved worldwide. There's just a tough argument to be made when the move doesn't put you at number one, right? I think that's the hardest argument. Is like, how can you argue against this when I'm still going to be number 3 at the end of the day, as far as biggest companies in my space? We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Let's slide over and do the weekly bombs. I'm going to give a dub bomb to Rocket League Season 9 kicking off next week. Saw the trailer today, put it up on MMOBomb. I love the look of the fire and ice theme, the elemental theme, and the new car, the Emperor, and the couple variants of that car. That looks great. I'm going to give an A-bomb because this week, one of the stupid weekly quests is to get a swish in hoops, and I've literally played 10 to 12 hours of hoops, and I have not gotten a swish yet. I fucking hate when that one shows up. Go ahead, Troy.
I'm gonna give a dub bomb to not crashing in warmer dark since launch. Knock on wood.
Yeah, you're doomed today.
I was having a bad time in beta to the point where I quit playing it. So I'm just happy that I've been able to play some missions without crashing.
Stojan in chat, by the way, also says Macedonia loves us too. So shout out to Macedonia. Go ahead, Anthony.
I'm gonna give a dub bomb to Path of Exile. Actually, I'm looking forward to a lot of different things that they're doing this month. The Ruthless mode. I never was there when Path of Exile first came out, so it's kind of my way to go back and feel it out how it was originally. And also, I like the new kind of rogue-like element styled league that they got coming up soon. That all looks very exciting to me.
Nice. From the viewers on YouTube or on MMOBomb, don't forget, put your comments, your weekly bombs, dub bomb for something good, A bomb for something bad, in the world of gaming or life in general, and your weekly question of the week answers in the comments so we can bring them to next week's show. Misfit, not to be confused with Misfit Rain. This is a different person. Misfit, ArcAge could have been one of the biggest MMOs of all time. Us talking about ArcAge 2 on the last show. They chose short-sighted profits over long-term success. Given that ArcAge Unchained is now sub-based, it's at least possible that they may try a new tactic. With Ashes of Creation in direct competition, it may not matter. I do hope for the best, but it's impossible not to be skeptical, and we're all right on board with you. By the way, we just put up for you, ArcAge fans, 2 giveaways on the site, one for ArcAge and one for ArcAge Unchained on a free raiment outfit. So go ahead and get that. To Cal in chat saying, A-bomb to Kanye. You don't get to be a clown all the time, my dude. Give somebody else a chance. Ninja Panda saying, bomb to Darktide for keeping me interested and for being fun despite that one random crash. Go ahead, Troy, take the next one.
Box giving both an A-bomb and dub bomb to Blizzard. Dub bomb because evokers are really fun and I've made several on different realms I'm considering playing on. A-bomb due to the fact that almost 2 full weeks before Blizzard randomly decided to give me access to the Dragonfly beta. Really, Blizzard, you did this with Mr. Pandaria too.
Congrats, you have beta access for next week's launch.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Kevin Sharp is giving a A-bomb, kinda old news, to Netflix changing out actors for Geralt in upcoming Witcher seasons. Henry Cavill wanted the role bad and owned it. Yes, he did.
Yeah, I'm kind of upset with that too. Although, like, Henry has a fair amount to do with why it's being switched to. Obviously, he's going to go do
Yeah.
Superman. I know some people speculated that was like the reason the timing just didn't work. I'm sure it doesn't help that he's going to be busy doing Superman again, but he's kind of alluded to problems between him and leadership because he kind of wants that to be so close to the books, and they want a little more freedom, and so maybe it's just the tensions got a little too high.
He surprised me though in that role. He surprised me in a positive way.
Yeah.
I really took to him really quick as Geralt.
I agree. Raggerty says, like you say, Magic Man, they don't care about the property, talking about nostalgia and cashing in on that. They just want the nostalgia dollars. What makes it worse is the inset of world social political views when it was never about those things. The people that do change the original lore or story to get their view in there and then blame the fans when they point out what does not work. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Masters of the Universe remake. Go ahead. Go ahead, Troy.
Kami, A-bomb to the new Pokemon games Scarlet and Violet. I could talk about how bad they are, but everyone who knows about these games knows already.
Yeah, not a huge Pokemon fan, and even I know. Go ahead, Anthony.
Pokemon, haven't played it in forever. Oh, Ivy Pariso? Private server for Chrono Tales, please. Or just the files of the game to create private server, please.
I had not heard that name for such a long time until I put that in the show notes. Like, I actually had to go look up Chrono Tales because I couldn't remember it. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, wow, I do remember this game. I do remember this. I'm not aware of a private server, or I would point you, but I would be kind of surprised if there wasn't one for one of the smaller games like that. Last week's question of the week: what IP do you want made into the next big MMO RPG? Nasagra says, question of the week: the series that should have had an MMO years ago, Pokemon. Just please let someone other than Game Freak make it. The series I want an MMO from, Atelier, a PvE-only sandpark MMO from a series known for crafting and gathering and more down-to-earth slice-of-life style stories instead of Chosen One narratives. Yes, please. I definitely agree on that second one. I don't know if I'm into a Pokemon MMO, but I could definitely, it'll do well. Like, even if it's terrible, it'll do well for a few months. Go ahead, Troy.
Bach says, definitely would love to see a full-blown MMORPG based off the Avatar series for both The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra. There's more than enough history and lore between both shows and graphic novels to cover so much in terms of classes, races, locations, etc.
Yeah, that's a hard one to disagree with. I mean, unless you just don't like the series, okay, fine. But sorry, there's going to be a lot that will. Go ahead, Anthony.
If you don't like that series, you're wrong.
Misfit Rain, question of the week. I think Masters of the Universe would be a cool MMO, although it would probably play out like a superhero game, which I'm still good with.
Troy, I'm going to jump one and take the long one, and you can take the Baron Vagabond short one.
Okay.
Kevin Sharp says, question of the week: I want to see an MMO. My want to see MMO is already mentioned in the cast with Project H rumor, the Horizon MMORPG rumor. Ever since my wife and I played Zero Dawn, she would lament how cool it would be if there was a co-op option where we could play together. One person gets a Thunderjaw's attention while the other shoots off the parts from behind it. I said then the world would even lend itself to an MMORPG. I reiterated this sentiment as we played Forbidden West. She asked how there would be PvP, though. I told her it's easy. You don't have to have enemy factions per se. All the tribes are rivals with one another in some aspect. There could be zones to PvP over resources or base camps. It's a huge open world. Every player could be a tribe member of a chosen faction with their own unique MSQs and side quests to parallel the main story of Alloy in the first two games. Cauldrons could serve as dungeons with loot, and raids could be open world on enemy camps. It would have to be more theme park based versus sandbox because Guerrilla worked way too hard to create the narrative of the story in the first two games to not have that be a part of it. My concern is NCSoft with Sony, with zero mention of Guerrilla. This is their baby. To cut them out or not have them be a major part of a developing MMO of Horizon seems like a recipe for disaster and a tarnished blemish on the record of this amazing IP. I'm with you. I do hope this becomes an MMORPG. I wouldn't count Guerrilla out, though. I think in the initial reporting, because it was Sony and NCSoft having the discussions, you only saw Sony in the titles and the headlines, even on our own, because they're hosting the discussions. But remember, Guerrilla is a wholly owned subsidiary. So for all intents and purposes, Guerrilla is Sony. And Sony is Guerrilla. So I would imagine Guerrilla would be involved, but they work for Sony. So they're going to do whatever Sony tells them to go ahead and make. So I wouldn't be surprised if Guerrilla is absolutely involved. In fact, I'm with you. They should be. Go ahead, Troy.
Baron Vagabond. Parasite Eve needs to be full-blown MMO because I'm desperate for anything Parasite Eve.
I would
LOL.
take a Parasite Eve Game Boy Advance game at this point. Like, I'll pull out my Game Boy Advance. Send me something. Go ahead, Anthony.
Breckner Catalan. Question of the week. Any fighting anime, really? Be it Bleach, Naruto, Dragon Ball, or any of the newer ones? If I had to pick, though, Goblin Slayer. Okay. That's good. That's a good recommendation.
Anthony's with you. Not sure how a Parasite Eve MMO would work. I don't even care to call. Do it. Make it. Question of the week this week.
Just do it.
We talked about MMOs and what would make good ones this week. Obviously, we talked a lot about looter shooters this week. What makes a looter shooter good? I mean, it's all about replay, so how can that be done in a great way? And are there any IPs that haven't been made into looter shooters that you think would make great ones? Let us know in the comments below. While you're there, don't forget your weekly bomb, dub bomb for something good, a bomb for something bad in the world of gaming or life in general. And until next week, Anthony, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Twitter at AntJonesWriter. Sometimes I post, sometimes I repost. Check me out.
Troy.
YouTube, Noob Fridge, youtube.com/Noob Fridge.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me personally right there at magicman1, but more importantly, follow at MMOBomb on Twitter. You'll know every time we go live with a stream, podcast, first look video, articles, giveaways, and so much more. Until next time, stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.